Hi everyone. Give me 1 second.
Hey, how's it going?
Hi, good. How are you?
Good. Here we are.
Here we are, finally. Oh my
I,
gosh,
I know.
we made it.
We did. We made it. Hey, everybody. Welcome.
Hi everyone.
Welcome, welcome.
I think we'll just maybe give a couple minutes for a few more to join on, and then we can get started. Did you get your
Okay.
tea?
I did. I got it right
Okay.
here.
Okay, good.
So good.
Did I get it right? Is the order correct?
You got
Okay.
it right. It is really good. What do you have?
So I have this like little awesome like a vintage looking teacup, and so it's like
Yeah.
it's a collagen peach tea.
Oh, collagen. Yes, we do need that. Hello.
Yeah, we do lots of collagen. I'm entering that phase of my life where I'm like 2 stages before where I need to start getting Botox, but one stage past, like I can't just wake up and roll out of bed. You know what I mean?
Stop it. Stop it. You know, I've never had Botox, but I kid you not. I think one day I might try it. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It
Yeah,
sounds
I
fun.
know. It's
I
like,
think that it goes away. So
I mean, your skin is stunning, like you're flawless, so
thank
you do
you.
not need to do anything.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Hey,
But
everybody.
hi everyone. Okay, so yeah, so Mena, thank you so much for joining.
Yeah.
Today is the kickoff of Tea Time with MagicLinks, so really excited to have you on board. Just before we get started, one really big thing about MagicLinks is we like to set our intention and really live a life full of intention. And so whenever as a team, when we enter a meeting, we always open with what our one word is of what we're feeling and what we would like, to get out of it. And so with that said, let's please go ahead and do that. My intention for today is growth. That's really what I'm focusing on.
Yeah. My intention is hope. I say hope.
Okay. So let's just hold that for a second. Let's close our eyes for just a few moments and kind of just like let that sit into the universe. Okay. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining, Mena.
Yeah.
We really are so excited to have you here. It's been incredible to hear from so many influencers like you about who have responded to things that we've been saying lately and have been extremely vocal. And so,
Sure.
really, the point of this is like I'm about to shut up, and I really just want to hear from you. And
Yeah.
please, let us know about all the things that we really think as individuals, as an organization, and as an industry within influencer marketing can really learn and grow from.
Yeah.
And yeah, so with that said, I'll sort of kick it off to you. If you could first start with just explaining a little bit more about you for those who may not be familiar with you.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, I'm originally from Rhode Island, and I moved to Houston after I finished grad school, and I came here to work at a highly selective private college. So my background is in higher education, and it's so interesting because with this discussion about things being equitable, I know what it looks like at a very prestigious. I've also worked at Ivy League school. I know what it looks like for discussions to be had around making sure that the admission decisions are equitable and they're fair and they represent, the nation and the world as a whole and not just one sector of race. So that's my background. And then I just fell in love with makeup, became a freelancer, and now a social media content creator. But I still have that love and that background in higher education admission, like that selectivity of it all. And so when I think about influencer marketing, it kind of feels that this morning, I'm like, it kind of organically and automatically, those who seemingly get the most deals and the most recognition and campaigns, and commercials and billboards and magazines and so forth, automatically those folks are going to be white women. But when I think about it in the realm of, highly selective admission when it comes to colleges, we would have to be very intentional to say, okay, here are our numbers, for white students. And so where are we now with our Black students? Do we have any Native American students who we think can be qualified? Do we have any Hispanic students who can be qualified? How many students do we have from out of the state, out of the country, so on and so forth. So when I think about influencer marketing, I just wish, and my hope is, and my suggestion is that it be the same way, because it almost feels like so selective to get deals with top companies. It's really like almost getting into an Ivy League school. So in order for it to be equitable, because it's not happening organically, my recommendation is that it really just needs to be intentional. Hey, we need 20 influencers for this campaign next month. And my understanding is that those who work for these companies have to pitch to the brand who they think would be a best fit. So then my challenge for those folks is to make sure that when they are presenting or gathering suggestions for these campaigns, make sure that it's equitable. If it's not going to come organically, I feel like it just needs to be like, this is just a requirement. If you're pitching 20 influencers, make sure that a quarter are Black, or make sure a third are Black, and make sure we've got some, you know, other ethnicity, races, because race and ethnicity are different. Okay. So you can be a Black Chinese if you're born in China, parents working there, you know, there for work. You can be a Black Puerto Rican, you can be a Black African, you know, so on and so forth. So if we're thinking about race specifically, I would say that brands they should follow the same track as these highly selective schools, which some people don't like, but that's the state of the world that we live in. Because if we allow it to just happen organically, there'd be a lot of Black, you know, people of color in general, students who are not getting to these great schools, who are able to do the work. Like, it's not like Black folks aren't able to do the work. You know, it's not like our gear and our talent and our content isn't as good. It is good. We're just being overlooked because it's not happening organically. So my recommendation would be brands just need to put it in place. When you bring me a stack of recommendations, make sure a third, a quarter, what have you, represent Black creators.
Right.
You know?
You know, that's a really interesting piece of feedback. I know on our end, currently we're looking at a lot of systems right now in terms of where we can make change, and one of those is 100% on the branded casted campaign section of our business. Sure. And to give you a little bit of, and I would love your feedback on this. Like, so we currently, the way we work with brands is like, once we have everything set up, we then connect with the brand and we fill out a form where we collect all the details about what they're looking for from the influencers.
Right.
And so, you know, we're wondering, is this, in that conversation, do we need to make it a conversation now moving forward of, okay, great, so you're looking to target, you know, females ages 35 to 45, and you're looking to target, you know, white, Latinx, Black, like what we know. And so we do all that in terms of targets for audiences.
Sure.
Which sometimes lends itself to the influencer who may have that audience. But do we have a conversation with them and say, okay, so when we send you this list of people, you know, is it almost that we need to have some sort of clause within our agreements of, you know, you accept when you work with us that we are committed to diversity, and that at minimum of 25% of this program needs to be racially or ethnically diverse?
You know what? I love that you said that, because I didn't think about that. Because you're right. Because many times the brand wants to know, what does your audience look like? Mm-hmm. But I follow white girls that I love and that are genuine, right, that support the Black movement and all that stuff. But that doesn't mean that that person can speak to Black people. Like, you know, like I follow them for a certain reason. But mm-hmm. when I want to hear from a Black sister, it ain't going to be her, you see? Mm-hmm. So I that's interesting to know. And yes, you see, I love that MagicLinks wants to be an ally in the sense where it's like, hey, well, we need you to make this commitment. But I would love if the brand is, you know, off bat says, okay, we want to make sure that the influencers have an audience that looks like this. But right. then we also want to make sure that the influencer looks like this too. Make sure that, again, you know, a quarter are Black, a quarter are, you know, whatever from certain. I know, and sometimes it's like the influencer needs to be in a certain state, so on and so forth. It's like there's a flagship store for the brand, all that stuff. But yeah, if I can speak for all of us, which I can't, but I will in a sense, is that we want to feel like we are wanted. So it's one thing if MagicLinks says, well, this is what we need, so come back around and give us, you know, a different set of criteria to pick from. But then it's like, are you holding their hand to that, or do they offer to say, you know what, we want you to help us identify influencers and make sure that a quarter are Black. So yes, a starting point would be for you all to do that. But then my hope is that at some point, hopefully sooner rather than later, they actually care to do that. Have a mix. Yeah.
Totally. Right. And, you know, for us, it's brand by brand, honestly,
Yeah.
you know, without, you know, disclosing or name dropping, like it's sometimes it's a conversation, and there are certain brands of ours who are super upfront and they're like, we want to see this mix. And we've had it on our end too, where we send a recommendation list and they say, we want to see more diversity. So we love that. We're like, great, you know, like, you know, based off of our briefing, you left us with one impression, but you know, when we look back at who we actually move forward with, it's fantastic to hear that feedback. For us, it's also the share of voice, which is really important for us to make sure that, you know, when we're casting these campaigns and we're connecting influencers who have large social followings with brands, that, you know, that reach and who is able to actually secure that type of deal, that should be equitable across all races, but especially, I mean, so let's actually shift gears a little bit and talk more about you and beauty, because I know that you're in the beauty influencer space. And so could you first just like shed some light in terms of who you've worked with and kind of what your experience has been thus far?
Well, I don't want to give any names, you know,
Sure.
but, you know, I've had brands. So I don't always know if a brand is Black owned, but they do market to Black people. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So for instance, I had a brand contact me and they had a quick turnaround, like the next day turnaround, right? And I recognize that. And having the experience that I have, I recognize that I had the hand up. Like, you're not going to just come in my inbox and then throw $100 at me and think that I'm going to just jump, especially with this quick turnaround. Like, absolutely not. So, you know, that $100 turned into 4 figures because I was like, I know my worth, you know, when they asked for analytics and I sent that through, and then they agreed to the 4 figures, and it was, you know, exponentially higher than the original ask or the original offer. Now it's a Black like marketed company, but I don't know if they're Black owned, but that was an insult, you know, especially like I said, okay, it's one thing if this was 5 years ago or 3 years ago when I was first starting off and some of my content is a little bit trashy, you know, I was just trying to figure the whole thing out. I understand that, you know, but now when I've got a $3,000 camera and all this studio equipment and all this time and people that help me out and so on and so forth, absolutely not to mention the time and effort that I put in with my audience. Like, some of them are here and they know, like, the hours that I put in responding to DMs and responding to comments. And, you know, some of my audience has my phone number. Okay. Like, we've been on Marco Polo and all that stuff. It takes dedication and time and care. And there's just no way that you're going to come at me with something like that you're just going to lowball me and think that I'm going to just jump and take that. So that has happened with brands that market to Black people. That has happened to brands that market to white people. I mean, let's be honest. I wear makeup that is really marketed to white people, but I like it. And my hope is that all of these brands will understand that, yeah, like, your products are great, but we're fed up. We're kind of tired. And I've talked to some influencers who are like, you know what? I'm going to stop showing these products. I'm going to stop linking the products. I'm going to stop using the products. And that really is their prerogative to do that, because we're kind of fed up. When we go to your Instagram page, you know, you got 6 or 9 squares. How many of those squares are allotted to Black women? Yeah, in the past 2 weeks, we've seen a few, but when we scroll back, there was like nothing. Now, that's okay, because again, my word in the beginning was hope. So my hope is that, okay, you started now. We get it. You weren't really with us in the beginning. That's fine. But now that you are, we're hoping that that is going to be a standard. So similar to when you're, you know, hiring for a campaign, if they were to say, okay, we need a quarter Black, you know, a quarter this, quarter that, whatever. I want to see on brands' pages in that 9 or 6 squares, you're looking on desktop or phone, I want to see the same thing. I don't want to look back a month when it was Black Lives Matter that I saw someone Black. I want to look in December and still see, out of the 6 squares, you got a white person, you got a product, you got a this, you got a that, you got a Hispanic, you got a, you know, Asian, you got a this. You know, I want to see the diversity, because it's not that we're not buying the products, we're buying them. So they do, you know, the brands do, a lot of them, you know, they start off with the gifting. We want to gift you and, you know, give you a percentage off and see how you do with that. I want to see how I do with that, okay? I know how I'm going to do good, okay?
Well, we feel that as a business. Trust me, we're at that on a macro scale of, like, you know, we're very much in that range too of, we're a startup, you know? So for us, it's always sort of like fending for what our value is as well. And so, like, I totally hear you on that. And it's so important that you have set your boundaries and expectations of what flat fee you will accept to move forward with. So question, because you're bringing up, you know, not sure if it's a Black owned business, but it's marketing towards Black people.
Yeah.
In those instances, so in those instances, do you feel though, like you're not sure maybe about what the org structure looks like. Do you think that they're reaching out to you and are almost lowballing you because they're looking for you to like cut them a favor because you're also Black? Or like, what's your feeling on it?
You know what, Brian? Let me sip my tea, please. Okay.
Sip the tea. It's time.
I'm gonna just sip my tea on that because, excuse me, this is also a problem. Okay,
yeah.
That's also the problem. So on one hand, we can, and many of us are a little bit fed up with the brands owned by white people who are trying to give us chump change for awesome content. But then on the other hand, we have the Black-owned businesses. Granted, we understand that perhaps they don't have as much capital. They haven't gotten as high as a loan. They're first starting off, all of that. And we respect that. I respect that. But I also respect the fact that I can't take an ambassador coupon to pay my mortgage, you know? I cannot take an ambassador coupon to get an oil change. So it's unfortunate because it's like, in this business, I can't just sit and say, okay, well, I'm only gonna work with Black-owned brands. You know, First of all, how many are there? There are obviously a lot more brands owned by white people. They have the capital to pay. They just don't always want to pay us up front. Some of them do, but they just don't always want to pay us up front. So you have the Black-owned brands who either just can't pay enough, or I kind of want to say they don't want to pay enough because, you know, there's been some instances. And it's unfortunate, but I'm not the kind of person to air anything out. I don't do that, but I'm sure you're reading between the lines. Like, there's been some shady stuff all around, and it's unfortunate. You would think that with a Black-owned brand, they would come correct up front, or when you respond back like, hey, that's kind of like not close to what I charge, you know, based on X, Y, and Z, this is my rate. You would think that they would respect that, but what it comes down to is they I feel, think it's like a favor, like, hey, you know, like, I'm Black, you're Black, like, you're a Christian, I'm a Christian, like, you know, can we do this deal? And I'm like, not really, you know, but I can't lie, like, I have done that many times in the past, like when I was first starting, you know, all of this, because I want to help, and the products are good, I'm like, sure. But now that I've become full-time as a content creator, like I said, when I got to go get my groceries at Walmart, I cannot go there with a coupon code, a discount code, Mena 10. That ain't gonna work out, you see? So I've had to really pull back on that. And it's a lot, right? Because some can say like, oh, well, you know, y'all need to be supporting Black businesses. Well, I want to support you, sis, but I also got to support my family and these bills.
Totally.
So it's really strange. How do you
base your fees? I think that's an interesting one to touch on.
Yeah. So, you know, when I first began, it was like when I first began as makeup artist, I charged really low. And as I got better and worked at MAC, I was like, oh, no, ma'am, you know? So when it comes to, well, I'm gonna talk about that in a second. So when it comes to fees, right, I think time and tenure is important. How long have I been doing this? And how much better have I gotten? You know, have I upgraded my tech? Right? Like, is my camera an iPhone, or is my camera Canon, you know, 5D Mark IV, right? That costs $3,000. Am I hiring a photographer, or am I editing on my own? How long is it taking me to edit this video for the company? How much time am I taking to create this video? So really, a lot of it is like what you feel you're worth. But then I've also heard from content coaches who say, really, you should start or ballpark around what they say, like 5 to 10% of your audience. But we also know that not every audience is very engaged. So,
and you have an engaged audience. That's one thing I will say. I mean, like, your views are wild.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Like, my people, like I said, some of them have my phone number, okay? So I really, it's more than just like a face beat to me. It's a lot to what I really want to do with my platform. So is your audience engaged? Like, do you have 100,000 followers and you don't have an engaged audience, or are a lot of them engaged? That really matters. So again, a content coach that I follow, she made that mention, and I was like, oh, good to know. So, you know, between 5 and 10% of your audience, that's a good place to start. And if you want to go toward the 8 or 9, just have justification. Like, if a brand comes to you and it's like, we want to pay you X, and that is not close to your rate, and you say, actually, this is my rate. Sometimes they'll say, I'm sorry, I can't, or like, oh, okay. You know, they want to kind of like shortchange you. They're like, oh, okay, fine, right? But then sometimes they're like, oh, do you mind breaking that down for us? What does all that entail? And you want to be able to do that. Not just like, oh, well, I just think you owe me this kind of money. You didn't want to say, well, you know, this is 5% of my audience, and then I hire a photographer and she costs this much, and I hire a videographer and that costs that, you know, whatever. Or like, you know, licensing costs this much, or exclusivity costs this much, whatever it is. I mean, they don't get like in the nitty gritty, but you do want to provide some idea as to why your rate is that rate. Not everyone always asks why. Sometimes they do, and you want to be able to find an answer. Oh, and sometimes exposure could be part of the deal. So if a brand can guarantee you that they're going to repost you, that can be part of the deal. Depending on the brand, depending on what you want and how you feel.
It
like,
depends on the brand, right? Like, I mean, you know, when it's a fit for you. If it's a fit for you that you're really excited about, that weighs into the decision, of course. Yeah.
Right. So if you want to be on the radar of the audience of X brand, then that could be part of the deal. So if let's say your rate is $5,000 and they can only pay $2,000, you're like, okay, well, can you guarantee that you're going to repost me? You know, whatever it is, if you want to be in front of that brand's audience. If it's an audience that doesn't fit you and what your vibe is on your channel, it's just not going to hit well. It's going to be a waste of your time. So how should influencers think of brand collabs values? Well, you know, that's a good point, because there's a lot of chatter around about certain brands and their values and stuff. And that, yes, that's a part of it. If a brand has said or done something, or the representative is a beauty creator, a content creator, and then, you know, 5 years ago they said this, and you offended by it and stuff, you don't have to take the deal you don't want to take. It's really up to you. Mm-hmm. How do you find truth versus media and researching? Well, I guess it depends on what it is, right? Like, to me, if a brand has made amends with a certain situation, it's up to me to decide, okay, like, I forgive them and I'll do the deal, or like, no, that really was pretty bad, I'm okay. To me, listen, we don't have a governing board of influencers. We are all sole proprietors, independent contractors. You do what you please and how you please it. Mm-hmm. But of course, there are ethics that go into it if you live by ethics, and you can use that to guide what brands you work with and how and all of that.
So Mena, actually, I know that this was one thing that we had chatted about on the phone last week, regarding, you know, when you're thinking about also moving forward. I mean, it's like it's undeniable that this time around with the Black Lives Matter movement has had a global impact. I mean, truthfully, I mean, and I think that part of that does have to do with the social media component of that, and this added level of accountability across the board. Like this is like you pick a side. You either have spoken up or you pick the other side, you know? Yeah. And so with that said, and knowing that there has been a lot of fallout for brands now, how are you considering what relationships to engage with moving forward? Like, how are you viewing, you know, when a brand reaches out to you, has that changed how you're thinking about things?
So, you know, some influencer friends and I have talked about this too. So, you know, yes. Okay. So yes, for me personally, I'm taking all of it into account. So like I said, for instance, if it's a brand who just decided to wake up 2 weeks ago, a month ago, with all this going on, and now they're showing some diversity and they're pledging, I forget the brand's name, but they're pledging to something about like 70% of their campaigns, I don't know, to Black folks or whatever it is, you know, if they've woken up now and they're deciding to do better, then I'm okay with that. That's why I'm beginning my word with hope. I'm not the kind of person to be like, no. For the past 57 years, you've been dogging us out, and now you want to get a Black influencer. No, because that's not smart. If we want the brands to do right, but then when they come correct, we're like, then what's the point of them doing right? So for me, I'm open to that. I do, you know, I've responded back with questions like, hey, what was your response on this, and what's your plan? Because I want to know. Like, I might not have caught it online. I want to just remind myself with, you know, what you're doing, so that when my oh so faithful audience asks me, yo, sis, what's up? Did you see that so-and-so posted this? I want to know what I'm doing with who I'm doing it with, so I can respond accordingly and not look like a fool because this brand was, you know, acting crazy about whatever situation. So I have hope about it, but it's not every brand that I'm willing to work with, simply because of just, you know, who represents it and how they move and shake, and it just doesn't align with what I believe. But I'm going into it. I'm advised by what is happening. Yes, if that answers your question. Like
Yeah.
all of what's going on, how they're responding, that kind of thing. Yeah, that advises it. So when I get the email, I look back and I'm like, oh wait, didn't that, and all that.
When it comes to your audience and really knowing that you have a highly engaged audience, I know that there's of course that level of accountability for you as well when you align yourself with the brand.
Yes.
How do you, like, do you look at that? I'm sure you look at it already. I mean, you can't not look at your comments. Are you concerned about that? Or, are you crowdsourcing information? Because you're, as you mentioned, you're a sole proprietor. How are you supposed to, go check the org structure of every brand you could possibly work with and stalk LinkedIn and see who works there? Like, that's
Right.
a
I
lot
don't
of
have
work.
that kind of time.
Right.
I can barely get my work done. So, interestingly enough, I don't have a problem with confrontation. And confrontation in and of itself has a bad connotation because confrontation can seem negative, whereas confrontation is really just bringing something up. And I've done that over the past several weeks with brands that I've worked with or am working with. And I've said, hey, in light of what's going on, I want to share with you an experience that I have had in your store in my area, and this is what happened to me. And so I'm seeing comments under your page that are looking just like this, and I experienced that as well. So my question is, what is your response to this? Because although this happened years ago, there are many times where I've been in a store, and a store is a brand, right? And they have a social presence. So I've been in a store and I've not been treated very well. And the only reason why, welcome back, Brian. The only reason why is because your girl didn't have hair and makeup on. And that is a very sad, very, very sad reality of our world, is that people judge you based on how you look. Like if I go into a store, and I'm very big on keeping it 100. I don't always look this way, and I'm entitled to do that. So if I go into a store and I have my hair wrapped and my no makeup, my glasses, I got an outfit that probably is mismatched, okay, because I don't have the time. I have my good hard-earned cash money that I'm going to use to buy these products. I expect to be treated fairly. And the same as if I come in there like this in my lashes, because then it's like, oh, wow, your makeup, who did it for you? Are you a makeup artist? So, all of that does lend itself to the conversation of, do I work with this brand? Do I not? So I did send an email and say, you know what? I had the same instance, and I'm seeing lots of comments under your page about this. I've had this instance. We are working together. I need to know what your response is, because although I've pushed it aside, and it was like, they worked it out, okay? But it reminds me that this happened to me. And again, like I said, I come out with a hashtag ad, and here goes the crew. Hold up, did you see the comment section on so-and-so's page? They're racist, they're this, their workers follow you around the store. Their workers are asking you if you have enough money and all these different things. Like the security in their store is always chasing me around when I go in there. It's horrible, and I've been there, and it's unfortunate. So yes, that does factor in to my decision-making. But then again, I have hope in that people can right their wrongs, people behind the brand itself, but it's got to be sustained, like not just like right now. Again, we want to see in months to come, years to come, your grid on IG is equitable. Your campaigns are equitable. If they're not, we are going to speak up again. This is not going to just die right now,
Yeah, absolutely. I think have time for just like one more area of conversation, then we'll close it out. I know we had just said we do 30, but I'm kind of curious because with MagicLinks, we're really focused on e-commerce. That's where we drive most of our customers through influencers like you. And so with that said, knowing that e-commerce, of course, now with coronavirus, like everyone's shopping online way more than ever before, and stores, those sort of store experiences that you're referring to have been out of the mix for a while, and so how do you see your role as a content creator to also push the businesses that you want to see, and like knowing that you have had experiences in store with certain brands that you no longer align with, like is that shifting your strategy in terms of where you're looking to explore content?
Well, when I've had the bad experience, I wouldn't say that I no longer align, because I confronted the issue, and I confronted the issue, and you know, it was what it was. This years ago. But then I brought it up again just to make sure that we're on the same page.
Right.
But when it comes to e-commerce, I mean, first of all, tagging the links is a whole other job, okay? But you know, if I use the product, I don't want to pretend like I don't use the product. So there are products from brands that I use, and these brands are not diverse. But with what is going on, my hope is that they will be. But like I said, I've talked to many influencer friends who are like, yo, I'm cutting all of them out. If they didn't make a response that sit well with my soul, I'm done with them. If their response was lackluster or their numbers aren't good, I'm done with them. And again, we're all sole proprietors. We can do what we want to do, you know, unless your followers like revolt on you and like, why aren't you showing us X, Y, Z? But you know, we can do what we want. But again, I have hope. If I like the product, I like the product. I mean, it's got to be something really egregious for me to say, oh, you are not going to see that brand on my page anymore.
Got
and
it.
you know, there are some brands that just don't show up on my page, you know, already, and that is a statement in and of itself. But yeah, I'm a little more forgiving in that sense.
Well, you're a human. You're a human. You know, I think it's like, this isn't just your problem. It's honestly, it's more of our problem too, in terms of who are we engaging with at the macro level. You know, it's all of our problem. And you know, so we are here to support you, Mena, in any way. And really, thank you so much for being so outspoken. Your feedback has been really tremendous. I know that there are members of my team that are joining this right now, and they're taking notes. We're having big conversations about, you know, really what we need to be doing as a company and what our focuses should be. Everyone, so just to sort of close it out, thank you, everyone. This is Tea Time. We will be back next Friday with TBD with who the guests will be. We have a few people that are lined up. We're just working out some dates. One is actually a dear friend of Mena's, Carmen, and so she's fantastic. We're just working that out. Coming from a little bit different of a space, she's in more of the lifestyle fashion category, so a different perspective there, and as well as a Black female entrepreneur that is actually using MagicLinks technology for her startup. So lots of different perspectives here. Thank you so much, Mena.
Sorry, I just wanted to...
Oh, sure. Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
So when it comes to my suggestion about making sure that a portion of those in the campaign are Black, it's really important not to fall into colorism, because there are Blacks who are Black, right? Like my skin tone are darker, but then we've got Blacks who are very, very light, almost white passing. So what I'm not suggesting is that the Blacks that are chosen look white. That's fine.
Okay. Yeah.
But then we've got colorism when they're not like my tone and darker. They've got to be like, when I look at the page, I want to see someone that looks just like me, not someone where I'm just like, oh, is she? Wait, is she Hispanic? Where is she? You know, is she Puerto Rican? You know, because then we got colorism, and that's a whole other issue. Oh, she's Black, but she has soft hair. Oh, she's Black, but she has long hair. We want to see Black in pixie cut, okay? We want to see Black in natural hair, okay? We want to see Black in a weave, Black in a braids. You see, like, there's got to be a level. I'm sorry, I'm digressing, but there's got to be a level.
No, it's great. Are you kidding? Yeah.
There's got to be a level of comfortability of all things Black, not just Black, but make sure that she wears straight hair. Black, but make sure her hair's not too kinky. Black, but make sure that she's not too dark.
Brand fit. We're over it. You know, what's a brand fit?
You might just skip all over me. Just skip over me. Because I might intentionally, I change my hair, you know, all of this. But I might go ahead and intentionally give you the kinkiest of my hair on the whitest of brand deals, just to see if you're going to tell me to redo the content.
I like that.
Right? Like, you can't tell me how to wear my hair. You better choke on that too.
We're like, well, we don't allow reshoots, so sorry, brand. Yeah,
like, I mean, I cannot reshoot this.
Yeah.
So, you know, so that also needs to be taken into account, because we don't want to be accepted when it's comfortable. Get a Black girl, make sure she's light and white passing. Or culturally, racially ambiguous. No. Give us the Black of the Black, and she changes her hair all up, and she's got dark, deep skin, and also give us foundation shades that match us. But I digress. Okay, so that's such an important piece to bring up. I mean, Mena, I know we're connecting with you just internally later on to talk more about this as we start to flesh out really what this looks like, because that's a conversation in and of itself
there as well. It's
Yep.
not just, oh, well, by the way, we're including 25% of the casted campaign to be Black, but it's also like, but we're looking at, you know, all different versions of what that looks like, you know,
Yeah.
and not just, and so I love that. I think for us, it's a huge part of it is wanting to also find those influencers and content creators that really resonate with us as a company and connect them with those brands. And so, yeah, fantastic. Yeah, that's a great piece of feedback. See, like, that's the kind of shit that I would never think about. You know what I mean?
Like don't put me in a campaign and lighten my skin up and make me look like I'm 10 shades lighter. You know, put me in and give me my skin tone. You see, like that also happens. You're like, wait a minute, I know her and she is not that color. What happened?
Yeah.
You know, they took her picture and lightened her up a little bit. Don't do that. If that's the case, don't even put us on the campaign to begin with.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. That's interesting.
There's a little passion behind it, because if you want a Black woman to represent your brand, make sure you're getting a Black woman. Yes, light and dark, but don't skip the dark, because dark skin is beautiful. You don't want that colorism stuff.
Absolutely.
It happens enough already. So if we're going to do it, let's do it right. If
100%.
we're going to do it, let's do it right.
It's necessary across the board. And honestly, just depending on what, especially in beauty, depending on which product it is, it lends itself to the products also, you know, like you really do need that. And so, I mean, I think on our end, we're happy to see that we are entering an era where brands are finally wising up. We're seeing more equity amongst shades of foundations and just colors in general. Like, that is definitely something that we're happy, you know, shout out Rihanna for like finally making everyone wake up. But you know, it's good. It's good to see that a lot of these drugstore brands are rolling that out, and that it's not just like, you know, olive and then chocolate, and then that's all that's there. So we're happy about that. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, and you're stunning. We can't wait to work with you more, and you know, both just as a company and with other campaigns. Like, this is amazing, and we are so thankful for all of your insight, Mena.
Well, I'm excited. Thank you, and y'all, thank you for tuning in and all your comments and all of that. So thank you. I don't know if I can save this live. Someone said that, but I think
I think it saves live. And so I'm saving it to my phone also. But yeah, we'll post it somewhere. All right. Thanks, Mena. Well, enjoy the tea.
All right. Bye.
Bye, everyone.